Good evening and hello to all of you. I'm happy to have our next session of International Campus Waldorf. I'm happy to introduce and to welcome Melanie Guerra from Brazil. I know Melanie for a couple of years now because we are working closely together in an initiative which might be interesting for you to know about too. This is the INESTI initiative, International Network of Academic Steiner Teacher Education, which is an association of teacher training centers all over the world, which is situated in Vienna and hosted right now by Carlo Willmann, who is with us. And maybe Laura can, yes, you already did it, bring the website link. And this year in May, we had a congress together in Vienna, and 2 weeks ago, we had an INASTI meeting. Melanie wasn't able to participate because it's always a long journey from Brazil. And we decided to have a next big INASTI Congress. This will be, what did we say? It's in 25, is it right, Carlo? So it's the year of the death of Rudolf Steiner. We will have a big INASTI Congress and starting to prepare it. And of course, we will update you the moment we know a bit more about it. And this is really a worldwide initiative, and it's nice to work together in that. And Melanie, she is joining this INASTI initiative from Brazil because she is the dean of the teacher Rudolf Steiner University in Sao Paulo. She has a master degree in education, has been for a long time a Waldorf class teacher, and right now is working in the teacher training center in Sao Paulo. And as I've heard right now, there has been a groundstone for a new building. So it's a big development. As I heard, there are 500 students right now at your place. So it's a really big teacher training center in Brazil. Congratulations to that very special moment to have your own building for that. And furthermore, Melanie is the director of the Brazilian Waldorf Federation, so she is really, really settled in the Waldorf world in Brazil. And she just said in the pre-talk that after the election, they have the mood that times are changing in Brazil a bit with a new president, and they are quite happy about that situation and hope it will last like this and really will be a good development. It's very nice that you can be with us again. You already gave a talk last year in the International Campus Waldorf, and today you're going to speak about the curriculum as a dialogue. Please, Melanie.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Jost, for the introduction. Thank you for being here, International Campus Waldorf. Thank you so much, Laura, for your constant support and emails, and I'm happy to be here with you. For me, it's afternoon. For you in Europe, is evening. In Latin America and in North America, probably also, we are in the evening. I am here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We have springtime, but it's a strange springtime because it's too cold. And so we can see that also we are having some problems with climate change and so on. Very cold, like I'm dressed. I'm never dressed like this in springtime. This is really for winter, just winter. And I want to say, yes, that I'm very happy to be here. I want to excuse myself for my poor English. That's why I will have a presentation so I can show my ideas and some special and important words in the presentation. But first of all, I would like to say that, yes, we are very happy that elections are over in Brazil and that we have a new old president because we know him already. But at least we know that he has, he takes a little bit more care of our environment. He has an environmental agenda, and we can breathe a little bit better now because we know that the environment in Brazil is going to be better taken off than before. And this is also very important globally and for you in other parts of the world. Yes, we have a subject today. We are going to work on the curriculum as a dialogue. And dialogue is something very important for me. And I see how important it is for all of us and for education. And I can see also that you maybe agree with me that dialogue is getting in extinction because we are having very poor dialogue qualities. We are having very little dialogue. We are not having the opportunity to deepen our dialogues, to talk, to listen, to have time, to breathe, to really have this time and this moment in our day to have a dialogue and to have a language that we can get profound in our thoughts and have time and have not a specific goal in our dialogue, but simply stay together, be together, and establish a dialogue. I think that is something that is getting in extinction, and many things bring us to that. We are having so many entertainment possibilities, so many gadgets, cell phones, social media, films, so many distractions, so many things bring us from out of the idea of the dialogue, and we are putting our time in other things. And this possibility to getting in touch with another person and deepen an idea or giving birth to an idea, as we will see in some minutes, is something that is not happening so much anymore. We can see this in politics, how there we see so monologues and argumentations and people just expressing or putting their ideas and their thoughts and fighting for some ideas and thoughts and not having this tranquility and this possibility and this openness to establish a moment of a dialogue, listening and asking, listening, and giving the opportunity to something that can be born inside of us, some ideas that can be born through dialogue. And I think in education, we are having this problem too in school classes where there's not enough space for dialogue. We always have an objective, something we have to do, want to do, a goal, and the possibility of simply waiting for the dialogue is something that is less and less present in our school classes. So I will go to my presentation. Let's see. Here, I hope you can see it. The curriculum as a dialogue. And I will go straight away to a fairy tale that I think most of you know it very well. The Green Snake and the Beautiful Lily from Goethe, the fairy tale. And very beautifully, I have a part, just a little part of the fairy tale where we have this dialogue between the king and the serpent. I will read it for you. What is more glorious than gold? Asked the king. The light, replied the serpent. What is more uplifting than light? Asked that one. Conversation, replied the serpent. And here we can see what value Goethe is giving to the conversation. It is more valuable than gold. So it's really incredible what kind of importance Goethe is giving to the dialogue, to the conversation. We can also talk a little bit about the dialogue, with the idea The name comes from the Greek, as so many other names all come from the Greek, where logos means the word, the meaning, and dia means through. So I always imagine a word that gets through me and gets to another person and gets to another, something really that is in movement, the dialogue, the logos that goes through. Arendt is also another author, Hannah Arendt, and she talks a lot, or she wrote many books, and some of them where she mentioned the dialogue. And she mentions especially the space between human beings, the space between two people, where the space in between is a space where the dialogue occurs, where something happens. It is not something concrete. It is not something that we can see. It's not tangible, but is a place where something happens. We can't see it, but she says it's so important. It is something so real that we can say it is the place where it is the web of human relationship. Hannah Arendt also says something about the individual dialogue, the dialogue with myself. When I think and I have a dialogue with myself, becoming an interlocutor of my own thoughts, that this could be also a dialogue. And Viktor Frankl also says something about the dialogue. He says, when I'm thinking and I'm talking with myself, it is like if I am talking to God in his way of thinking. And yes, especially Socrates has many contributions to dialogue, to the birth process. He says he's the midwife of ideas, the midwife of spiritual ideas that he could bring to birth. He could be like a midwife of spiritual ideas that he brings into the word. So through dialogue, through this talk, he could bring ideas and themes to the word, to the concrete. And he calls this the maiotica. So this is something we can see and hear from Socrates. And he always says the debate, people remaining in a position as owners of an idea, that they do not allow the new to be born. So for him, the new could be born through the dialogue, through the questions, through the process of maiotica. We can bring something, some spiritual, some things, spiritual science, we can bring this to the word. And he says that dialogue has not an end in itself. It is just in a way, it awakens something that is not known, but which creates something by the encounter. So we can bring something to the word through the encounter, through the dialogue, through something that we really move and which is in the living word. This can be brought as an idea to the word through the dialogue. The spiritual word could be brought to the concrete word through dialogue. So a little bit of how we experience dialogue in the beginning of our lives, where and how this could be an experience. And we can see that the first impressions maybe of a dialogue come in the womb. What kind of impressions? What happens in the womb? This is the first possibility of in life of the dialogue that could happen with mother and father, or a reference person, with the body language, with the expressions of this mother and father. This is also not audible. This is not a dialogue with words, but there is already a dialogue happening with the baby and father and mother. In the crib, how the crib looks like, where the crib is, this is also a dialogue with our environment. Language, the kind of language is spoken in different parts of the world, is also a possibility of different ways of experiencing our world. The climate, for sure, makes a big difference on how we start talking to our world. And I can see that this many times because I participate in some encounters and some meetings in Europe through Zoom, like we are now having this meeting. I experience when you in Europe, you have winter, you look completely different. You don't laugh so much, the jokes, you don't tell jokes, you are very serious, you look different. And it's very interesting to talk to you all when you are in summer or in winter. It's completely different. So the climate is a big way of a dialogue we establish with our surroundings. Our home, what we live, what we experience in our home is a way of a dialogue. Our surroundings, as I told, the biome, how are our impressions, the colors, how is the natural world in our surroundings? What do we experience in the forest or in the desert? How is it? All this constitutes our dialogue. The culture, for sure, the language, the songs, the jokes, the dances, all this is a dialogue for us, as well as the seasons. They are primer forms of a dialogue with our environment that forms us and gives us an aspect of part of our personality, just a part of our personality. And here, I want to bring you something from Martin Buber, another author that writes a lot about the dialogue, I and you, ich und du. Very interesting, the I and the it. He writes very important subjects about the dialogue. And I have one quote here, and this quote is in German and in English. And he writes the following: in the beginning, there is the relationship as a category of being, as readiness, comprehending form, soul model, the prior of the relationship, the native you. So we can see how we have the opportunity to be because of the you, because of the other. The other is the big opportunity that we know who we are, how we are, what we are. And this comes through the encounter, this comes through the relationship, through the dialogue. By dialogue, by establishing dialogue, I can know many things about myself. And one quote more from Martin Buber, the human being becomes an I through the you. So another way of experiencing the other, the dialogue through conversation, the possibility of interaction, knowing who I am through the other. This is very beautiful put by Martin Buber. And here, just a little bit about the child, the children and the youth, the young people. How are they? What do they experience? So they are underage, they are young, they are smaller. There is an asymmetric relationship between teacher or parent and the child, or the mother and the child. They are inexperienced. There is, we can't exclude this, there is an hierarchy thinking. Teachers know it better, mother knows it better, the adult knows everything better. The child shows at the beginning an individuality, like the tip of an iceberg. We see just something of their personality, but it's a lot bigger than what we are seeing at the moment. At the ground of the iceberg, under the water, there is a big personality. And we are seeing now, when they are just a child, just a tip of all of this. The child needs acceptance to have the possibility to get into the dialogue. The child and the youth expects authenticity, honesty, reliability from their teachers. Often, teachers exert power in their conversation or want to exercise their own convictions. We can observe this happening in politics and family fights because of differences in ideologies. We can see this in the classroom for sure when we are mentoring, how the teacher wants to impose their idea of thinking. Oh, again, it's not sharing. I'm so sorry. So, some ideas to what could help us to get into, to establish a conversation, to go into dialogue. First of all, we must be open. We must be open for this encounter and for the possibility of a dialogue. We need an environment of trust. And if we think about the child needs lots of trust if he wants to say what is really happening in there, what they are experiencing, what they are living. They don't want to be hurt. They are afraid of being hurt. So they need this environment of trust. The experience of a real encounter. I have time for this encounter. I'm open. I am relaxed. I am present. I'm really present as a teacher for this encounter. It's not an information exchange. The dialogue, the conversation, we are not exchanging information. We can change information, but this is not the idea. The idea is really having time for what comes up, what we can explore. It is not a speech. I'm not giving a speech as I'm doing now. I'm open to change, to have this encounter and listen to the other. There's no specific expectation. I don't want a result of our conversation. I don't want to get to some place. This expectation doesn't help me to have a real dialogue. Time is necessary, lots and lots of time, what we really don't have in our days. We are always in a hurry, always the watch is pressing us, Chronos is always running behind us, and really have the necessary time for the encounter. This would be very important. And for the child, it's important that they see that we have the time for the conversation. We must feel accepted. It's not good if we have some doubts about it, about the person. We must feel that we feel good and that we feel accepted. And we can find some real gold pieces, as in Goethe's fairy tale, when we establish dialogue. And I would like to tell a little experience I had once. I was teaching in first grade in a Waldorf school, and I was telling the Golden Box from Herbert Hahn. I think it's Golden Box in English. I don't know. It's a beautiful story, and I was telling my children about this long way from heaven to earth. So this incarnation process, and I was describing very intensively the staircase that comes from heaven and goes down to earth. And really, in exhausting way of expressing myself, I was characterizing and telling step by step how we go down and down and down in a line, in the straight line, a straight staircase that comes from one side and goes to the other down to the earth. And then I stopped and I said, yes, children, can you imagine? Can you see the staircase? Can you really see this inside of you, this big staircase that goes down to the earth till it comes to the boat? And suddenly a boy, a very short, small boy, not easy to go along, very smart. He did not put his arm up. He said, "No, teacher, it's not like that. It's a spiral. It is round. It goes like this. The staircase is there, but it is like this. It's round. It goes down in this direction." And then I said, "Oh, yes, you are right. You are completely right. And let's do this, what he is suggesting. Let's look to this staircase, and it goes round, down, down, till it gets to the boat where this person is going to get inside." So imagine this round staircase and how we can see many things, again, from another point of view, still when we are down in the boat. And this was so beautiful, so important, because out of this idea of the child, out of this moment of imagining, of having a possibility of breathing and imagining and having time and giving them time. And they could bring me, this boy could bring us, to the whole class, this idea of a dialogue through the story that I was bringing. So let me share again the screen. Yes, this is a picture just to see how an ambience could be ambience of trust, no fear, relaxed, where the child feels secure, safe to express itself and tell us what is living in him, in its day. So a little bit about education, Waldorf education, and this is very important because Tobias Richter, many of you know him, Carlo is here, knows him very, very well. And he says in a very nice book, Wiener Dialoge, Steiner education would be a pedagogy of dialogue. And I think this is so beautiful. And in other books of Tobias, where he writes about the curriculum, he says, yes, it is a dialogue between students, teachers, and the curriculum. So there the curriculum gets life. There the curriculum is alive, and we have a birth of a new curriculum every day through this dialogue between students, teachers. And this would be a desired goal for education, that it's not a box or a cemented place or a dogmatic idea or a piece of paper, but is a desired goal that we have this possibility of a dialogue when we think about the curriculum that was proposed for the Waldorf school. The encounter with children can be reached day by day by the practice. So the importance of the practice of the dialogue day by day, this could be a possibility that our children could understand better and do better with dialogue in their life. Interesting questions they could stimulate, they could make really this possibility of dialogue. So we can establish dialogue through questions, like we can see this also at Socrates. It's important that we have a school that does not exert pressure through evaluations. So the child could be very, feel well to express itself. Learning how to dialogue will be one of the tasks of the next generation. perhaps more valuable even than gold, as we saw in the tale of Goethe. Again. And now I would like you to have a look at this picture. It's a very old picture. I think it comes from the magazine Erziehungskunst, but it is so old that I don't have the reference. I haven't even seen the magazine. I just have this picture. And I would like you to look a minute to this picture and try to see what happens. What is going on? What are your impressions? Which questions arise? What is going on? What can we see in the space between these two images, these two personalities? And if you want, and if you can, would be nice if you write what you are seeing or which impression you are having in the chat. Please, let's for one moment have a look at this and in silence think about it. Yes, thank you so much. So nice contributions. Loving acceptance, curiosity, questioning and attention, trust, wonder, loving acceptance, relationship. There is a touch between them, a little touch between distance and Nähe, distance and proximity. The child seems to be listening, almost sleeping into their own self, empathy towards the student, kind expression, no hands approach. The child shows confidence. Thank you very much for your contributions. It's very nice to listen. I'm always showing this picture to so many students, and always we have some new ideas and new reflections about. And I can see that many questions arise in this encounter of the child and the teacher. And I really can see this place that Hannah Arendt says is the place in between. Something really happens between them. We can see really a reality emerging in this space in between. And I see these questions: who are you? Who are you? What do you want? What are you going? Where are you going? Where are we going together? What are we going to do together? What is going to happen? Do you know me? Do you know what we are doing? So many questions we can see that arise. And this is a very rich material for our curriculum. This is a very rich material already for preparing what we want to do with the child, with them in the classroom. So we know there is a specific curriculum suggested for Waldorf schools, but its application gains legitimacy and adequacy in the encounter and the dialogue with children. So really we have something. We have a big, many pages about our curriculum, and they are very, very interesting. But they are not everything, because they are not a rule, they are not a dogma, they are a possibility, they are a conversation, they are a possibility for a construction together with our children, with our environment, with our encounter, so that we can give a proper form for the curriculum, anthropology, and as we study anthropology, Steiner's anthropology, we can understand lots about the child, and this helps us to prepare our subjects, what we want to bring to school through these questions that we are seeing that arise in our children. And here I want to bring a quote from Rudolf Steiner in the Art of Education, Methodological and Didactic Preparatory Course, where he mentions also the curriculum, and the translation for English is not so good. That's why the German is there. I'm not so sure about this translation, but let's see. So we would have to approach the curriculum in a completely different way. This means that we have to approach this curriculum in such a way that we put ourselves in a position to actually educate ourselves at every moment, so that we learn to read through the eyes of the child with 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and we know what we have to do. So through this, we can try to bring to the experience what the child needs. It's not a closed curriculum, it's a proposal, and we have to get into the shoes of the child so that we know with flexibility and creativity how to prepare the content for our children. In the same book, one page before, Rudolf Steiner also talks more about the curriculum, and he mentions that the curriculum proposals at his time were very short, 2 or 3 pages, with some main ideas, but all the methodological and the didactic that would be used in the classroom would be something that the teacher would, with creativity, would do out of the living forces that will be present in the classroom. And he mentions that this would be good. So some great ideas, but the rest is a duty of the teacher to know how to prepare the content for the children. And here the curriculum proposed by Steiner can be recreated through dialogue. And how can we do this? So we have to establish dialogue with the child, with the environment, with the culture, with our time, with contemporaneity. How important it is to bring what we are living today into the classroom. What the challenges, the difficulties, the good things, how can we bring this? Because we have to work with what is alive, what is living. And we are living like this. And this has to be in our curriculum, in our living proposals for the children. And we have to have a dialogue with diversity. Diversity has to be in our classroom. And with the living processes, with teachers that work collaboratively. So we have to see how the teachers work together, and also this would be something important for our curriculum. With parents, with the dialogue with parents, know what they are living at home, what is their structure and their reality at home. So we have to bring something of this into our classroom. The child has to recognize himself, his life, his background in the classroom, not only at home. So he feels accepted in the classroom when he recognizes that this living part, his home is also in the classroom. Also, dialogue with employees and collaborators should be present in our proposal for our for our curriculum. And for the teacher, so to really know a little bit more about our children, the importance of observing and learning to understand the child, understanding the local and the social context, and the dialogue in the classroom could be situational, individual, face-to-face, contemporary, and very important, something that Steiner always points out, with humor, always with humor. Very interesting that he always brings humor into the situations. And the example, how important is the example? Much more sometimes than what we speak and say or lecture. And it's written in Portuguese. Nothing is so contagious as the example. And we can really see this, how the example is important. Sometimes we have a very good teacher in the classroom. He develops a very good work with the children, but after class with his friends and with his colleagues, it is not exactly the same. There's no dialogue anymore. And with the collaborators, there is no dialogue. And in the meetings or with parents. And so how important it is that the culture of dialogue is in the school, is living in the school, between teachers, between the staff, with the parents, and really creating an educational community. And this is very powerful when we have the whole school living in this idea of the dialogue, of establishing dialogue. This could be a very powerful possibility for our schools in the future. A very important thing is the dialogue that Steiner mentioned in the inauguration of the first school in Stuttgart in 1919, where he says we have to establish dialogue between science, art, and religion. So how important this would be, the dialogue between living science, living art, and religion. And this would be a goal for education, for the moment, his moment, and for the future. And further dialogues. How many dialogues? How many kind of dialogues we still have to establish? The future of education. What means for the future of education? How relevant it is to future generations to know how to dialogue, not to impose their thoughts, how to listen and have a real and fruitful encounter. As Arendt says, creative space between, a space between where we really could have this time to let things come and arise and be born from the spiritual world. How much can we achieve through dialogue, through a real dialogue, a real encounter? As Habermas also says, an ideal possibility of speech could be reached through dialogue. And maybe a possibility that could bring us some agreements and maybe a better future if we bring this and to work this with children when they are small till they are at the end of high school. And here, for the end, a beautiful quote from Georg Gusdorf, where he says, "The teacher teaches everyone the same thing. The master announces to each one a particular truth, and if he is worthy of his work, he expects from each one a particular answer, a singular answer, and a realization." So I think we came through an end. I just wanted to point out the bibliography to have an idea of Arendt, Martin Buber, and Gusdorf, Steiner, and Tobias Richter, our friends. This book I received from Carlo when I first met him with Tobias in 2012 in Vienna when we first met. And it was important for me, and it is, as you see today, Carlo. I took some quotes out of this book. Thank you so much. Thank you for this moment. And if there are some questions or contributions, I will be happy, because this is not an exact dialogue we are having here. I'm talking and saying and bringing my ideas, but it would be nice to speak about and have a dialogue about the dialogue. That would be really interesting. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Melanie. It seems to me this was really out of a pedagogical attitude spoken, what you brought to us. Thank you so much for that. And so open-minded and so full of curiosity and interest in the process. Thank you. And yes, I would be happy we can have a dialogue about that right now. Bettina.
Yeah, it's I'm always struggling with the English, so sorry. What I perceive so nicely, Melanie, thanks a lot, is a basic attitude in all what you said. And it's, yeah, I'm just looking for the word, possibly 2 examples. I think all we know, if we have a very, very good dialogue, the other person is listening. So speaking and listening, no? And sometimes we come to a dialogue where the other person is listening so well that he is telling me how I have to go on with my words. You can understand me. So it's not I am speaking and you are answering, but it's the person who is listening is the speaker and around. One example, pedagogic example, I found, I was remembering in a pedagogical artistic work we made with children with cancer in a hospital here in Lima, Peru. And we made music and histories and plays and a lot of things. And I'm doing music, for example. So I had situations after years that especially children who are in a critical situation, yeah, they hear, they are listening so with a high sensibility that you can nearly read what do you have to play. You see, I say, how can I be teacher that the child is telling me what I have to bring? Yeah, and that's possibly one aspect I see as an attitude and what did you bring? Wow, yeah. I hope you can understand me.
Yes, I think so, Bettina. I think I can understand you, and maybe yes. And for this, we have to have time, like the idleness. We have to have time. We have to have a creative idleness, so we don't have to be in a hurry and always running and searching and entertaining and putting things into our classroom, but having this time where we really can stop, breathe, and listen, and really listen, as you said, And then comes the question. The question is so refreshing, is so wonderful when we have this good question that, oh, how good, now I can talk about this because the question came, and this we can read in Steiner also so many times where he always works with the question. And here again, when the question comes, the child could talk about this, and it's really, this encounter is very good, and this idleness is really a possibility of something creative to be born.
There's a question by, or comment, whatever, by Sven. Please, Sven.
Thank you. Yes, I think there is something to be said for imperfection. Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, I've got my microphone. Is it better? Sorry. I'd like to say something about the art of imperfection. If you trawl the internet for Waldorf imagery, you see a lot of perfect blackboard drawings where teachers have been incredibly artistic and do the most amazing creations. And I always wish that those aren't real, because they don't invite a dialogue, do they? You create something for the children and you present it to them, and it's the finished article. And that would be true for a blackboard drawing as much as it would be true for a perfect story that you tell. If you don't leave a space in which the children can enter, then you're not actually inviting that. And I had a colleague who is much more talented than I am at drawing, and who taught us blackboard drawing. And he always said, I never finish a picture. I always leave a little bit of the blackboard unfinished so that the imagination of the children can enter into it. And I think there's a real secret there, because, and it's a changing paradigm, because when I was trained, we were encouraged to be perfect, to impose ourselves as artists on the experience of the children. And I think this is something that's changing thanks to contributions such as yours, to have the courage to not have everything just perfect and ready, but to allow that little extra space where the children can enter. So thank you for making that a major theme, Melanie.
Thank you for your contribution, imperfection.
I would like to put a question from my side. What I often observe and remark is that, and this is quite naturally, that after a while being a class teacher or whatever, I have been a Waldorf teacher for German literature, if you do it several times, you you fall in love with the curriculum. So there is wisdom in it, there is sense in it, there is structure in it, there is a deep source of development in it, and so on. So what you experience, the more you do it, the more often you do it, you get connected to this Waldorf curriculum, because that has been your topic of talk, and falling in love into it. And you find much, and after being an experienced Waldorf teacher, you know so many reasons why there should be a Roman or Greek in the 5th grade and whatever. So you have good reasons to do everything. And remember, the first lesson, you do the straight line and the curved line, and imagine a Waldorf teacher who starts a Waldorf class without doing the straight line and the curved line. It would be like some kind of a disaster for a Waldorf school, you know. So interesting thing is, you get connected to your work. You get, you see there is some kind of wisdom in it or whatever. And I would like to have a plädoyer for some kind of a constructive anarchy. For me, as doing German literature, 12th grade, there has to be Faust, of course. Without Faust, it's not a real Waldorf experience. But it can also be a trap. It can be a trap that you consider this as the real essence of Waldorf. And so your own attraction, your own connection becomes a trap for what you're calling the dialogue. On the counter side, you could say yes, but there's some kind of an essence in it. If we do this kind of anarchy, I'm suggesting right now, even if it's called constructive, this is some kind of a sellout of Waldorf education. We have to keep something which is really, this is the essence. We have to do maybe the morning verse, and we have to do the straight line and the curved line. You see what I think, how far can you go? How inventive can you be? How free are you to deal with the curriculum if you especially go to other countries? So that would be a question for me. And not only to you, of course, you can answer everything now, but maybe to the group too, but please feel free to answer, Melanie.
Yes, sure. Maybe others want to contribute because it's a very open question, and the whole world, I think, is living this. But we are experiencing that it is a proposal. The curriculum is a proposal, and it was proposed in Central Europe, right? In a certain place of the world, this proposal was there. And more we are experiencing that having good basis on the anthropology, on Steiner's anthropology, working hard on this, on anthroposophy, on the biography, learning how the child is, reading the child, observing the child. This is the main basis, the main importance to deal with the curriculum. So read the curriculum, know what lives in the curriculum, but then through anthropology, through biography, profound interest in comprehending the biography of the child and how it develops. Through this, working then with the curriculum and bringing what lives in this place, because the curriculum is alive, has to be alive. Otherwise, it is a dogma or a piece of paper or a cemented box of something, but it has to be alive. And so we have to see what is in our classroom and what lives in our surroundings. There is a very good example in Brazil. They used to do the knitting of a sweater on 7th grade, like in Europe, probably. I don't know if they're still doing this in handcrafts. And in our northeast part, where we have never less than 25 degrees, in the Waldorf school, they were knitting of a wool sweater on 7th grade. So this is something stupid. They will never use this. This is something really not tangible. So the idea is really to see what is living in this place. So they changed. They're using other kind of handcrafts. They are using things that they use in this particular place in Brazil. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I'm helping, Jost, but I think really knowing anthropology, knowing lots of knowing about anthroposophy, and then trying to see what this child needs and what the surroundings needs would be a very good way of approaching the curriculum.
Yeah, but maybe we can say there are some archetypal elements. And it would be nice to identify and have good reasons for them. Why are they archetypal? And of course, there are also elements which are maybe regional, and they fit to Europe. They don't fit to Brazil or somewhere else. So, and have a liberal way of dealing with it. Yes.
This is what Martin Rosen referred to as the macro elements.
Yes, he did that. Camilla.
Yes, I just want to give just an example that I was having like assistance in a Waldorfschule, and it was like in the 7th class, siebte clase.
Can you show yourself, Camilla, or don't you have the technical possibility?
Yes.
Yes, because we don't see you. Camilla is a student of mine in Germany. She's from Columbia.
And yeah, like I was the assistant in a class, and the teacher was like making a dialogue with the students about like if they were allowed to have piercings and the way they were wearing clothes to go to school. And I found that really, really interesting how the teacher was working with this topic, because it wasn't not like you're not allowed to do that. She was like making a circle, and we see it, and then it becomes this dialogue, what the students were thinking about this kind of like having piercings and maybe tattoos, and the way you can go to the school, like which clothes you can wear. And it was very, very interesting to hear every student, like the opinion, and also with the teacher. And the teacher was also not just doing this conversation with the students, she was also doing this dialogue with the parents. What do they were thinking about this topic? And yeah, I just think like this kind of methodology with dialogue is about these different topics. I think it was really, really good for the kids and for the parents also. And I also think like as a teacher, we are free to create the curriculum, and of course it depends of the culture and the place that you are, because every continent or students, they have their own interest, what they want to know. Yeah, and I think like, for example, in Colombia, we don't have in the school such a good dialogue with the teachers. We just learn what the teacher said. It's not like participated. But yes, I hope like in the future will be more like that, like the students can participate more in the curriculum, what we want to learn in the school, and to have a dialogue with this.
Thank you. Your sister commented in the chat, Camilla.
Okay.
She's listening from Colombia.
Moment. I don't see it. Yeah. The students does not have to chance to talk about the topics Yes.
Are there any comments from your side, Melanie, or from others to that?
No, just the archetypes you told about, you asked about, Jost. I think we have them, and we probably have to look at them and see how they really are important in this biographical development of the child, and how they fit. And we see they fit very well in many times, in many moments. But in some others, we can see, oh, maybe it's not time for this, or this is not the right place for this content, or we can do this later, or we do something else before, or we don't use the Faust, we will use someone else. Like in Brazil, we have Guimarães Rosa that has something similar to Faust. Why don't we use Guimarães Rosa instead of Faust? And the culture of dialogue, I think, would be very important, that they learn this and they establish this 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 habit of having the dialogue, because this could be very important for the future, for what society could, the fruits that society could have from this this possibility of really getting in through dialogue and not argumentations or speeches or convincements and so on. And I think this would be something very important for the future of education. Carlo has comments, Carlo. Specialist in dialogue. No.
Maybe I want to say something. Yes, thank you. Yes, archetypes, yes, they exist. But for example, in my opinion, a book, a great work, is never an archetype. It's only touching an archetype. So you can find other literature, music, which touches the archetype. I think it's important to touch it, but whatever it touches it, and it must not be Faust. I would prefer Guimarães Rosa in Brazil. Yeah. Thank you.
I think we have an interesting situation in relation to those questions, that on the one side we can say that within the Waldorf world we have a very, very strong, in a good way, a strong tradition. And as we can see now, we have a circle now from people all over the world, and many of us, they share the same ideals, and they share the same beliefs and the same, maybe also touching experiences. So what the Waldorf world is a very connected world, so to speak. And I often think, of course, we find reasons and we can address the topics like Faust and so on, and those archetypes or whatever. But on the other hand, I think what's often very much like an essence for the students, where they can experience the power of Waldorf, so to speak, that there are people who are connected to what they do. And this is not so often, so to speak. So our nominalistic culture, there is some kind of an implicit distance, an implicit staying outside and observing something and not being really connected anymore. And the moment you meet a Waldorf teacher, or the moment you meet a Waldorf person, you find someone who is really deeply connected. It's not just something you do, but it's you who is doing it, and it's part of your life and your biography and your identity. And this moment of identification, which the Waldorf experience brings and what anthroposophy brings, this is something which is, on the other hand, for the students, the essence of having a learning experience. So if you connect to Faust or whatever, it's the moment of connection which counts. And I think for all of us who really have a Waldorf heart or Waldorf mind or consciousness or whatever, this is something we don't do it just because we have to do it, because we do it because our heart is in it. And this is something which is the educating factor in the moment we meet the children. Yeah, maybe to say this. And Steiner so often offers us that opportunity to connect, because it's a deeper insight, it's a deeper understanding, it's a being surprised in a certain way by something which really makes sense for us and so on. So because we often have that cultural experience that we stay outside and there is no real connection to it. And Steiner provides a deep connection to the topics. And so maybe this is the meeting point for it, that once we have that experience, we would like to transmit it. And it's not the content, but it's the way we are connected to it, which is the educational factor in the end. Maybe this is a suggestion in that direction. Selma.
Yeah, thank you for what you just shared. My thought was before, and it is actually I'd like to share an insecurity, because often I do something and then afterwards I realize, okay, this was maybe not the right way to go, because I'm just studying and already teaching. And then sometimes I have an idea of what I want to do with the children, and I wonder, is it actually my lack of knowledge when I have a critique towards the curriculum, or is it actually the right feeling of maybe it's not right for this children or for this very moment? So then I'm in this struggle that I might dive into it deep, but it, like looking then back, I realized, there was a lack of knowledge of maybe the development of the children in this very moment. And so then in this insecurity, sometimes with the children already, I go like, wow, where to start and where to stop in those questions.
Thank you, Selma. Good question. Who is going to say something about it?
I'd like to just say something because it just touches on where I'm at the moment as well. I've just taken class 4 and 5 for music, having started at the South Devon School last term as a trainee teacher. And I've got a totally blank curriculum, as in they've told me to just kind of go with my interests, or as one teacher said, go with what the children need. It's quite a scary situation to be in, because you're thinking, oh God, what am I going to bring to the next lesson? And what do these children need? And so I kind of read a couple of books. I mean, not books, but just kind of a few pages, and looked at the general, syllabus for what it's about, and didn't really use much of it. So yeah, it's quite a daunting situation actually to say, okay, what do these children need, and how are you going to bring it to them? And being able to feel insecure, that is exactly, that's just the word that kind of sums it up, really. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Will, because what you said, I think it's really some kind of essential of the Waldorf way of thinking. Imagine you're part of a regular school system. You wouldn't be in the liberal position to ask a question like that, because everything is already given to you. You have to do this and this, and you have to follow up. And if you don't follow up in time, you have a problem. And now you are set free to ask a question like that. And the question in itself is a value, even though it's, of course, a bit of being in an open sea and not to know where's my next harbor. But this liberal situation, it's a source of becoming a teacher, because you can put a question and you have to find the answer, because the next lesson is waiting for you, and then you stand in front of the children, and then you have to see, did it work? What do I have to change? And this process, if accompanied by a really open consciousness, this is something which is a value of teaching, I think. Sven.
I'm just so happy about Selma and Will sharing their experiences there, because they're putting into practice what Melanie was talking about. This is wonderful. They're actually asking the children. You may not be aware that you're doing that, but that is exactly what you're doing. You're bringing something to them, and you're seeing how is it landing. And well done, you. This is people of my generation need a lot more courage to put down the book and look at the children. So this is wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and you're doing exactly the right thing. And don't worry if it goes wrong, because children are incredibly resilient. They will forgive you. if you get it wrong, as long as you get it a little less wrong the next time.
Thanks.
Nicolina.
Yes, hi everyone. I also want to thank everyone for their contribution, especially the two of you. It's always nice when we have this practical side of what we have been hearing about from the lecture. And when you both said that you are studying and that you are also teaching as well, I also started like that, even worse. I started to work, I got my class 1, and then I started to study next year. So I absolutely understand you. And all these questions that you are referring to as insecurities, they're not insecurities. They may appear as insecurities, but they are actually right questions, as everybody already said. And you're not alone. You have your colleagues around you. Don't be afraid to pull them by their sleeves, talk to them at the teachers' conferences, read a lot of, especially these methodological Steiner books and so on and so on. And whatever it takes, just as our colleague already mentioned, observe the children, because many times you go into the classroom and then you see immediately that you need to abandon what you have planned, because already at the beginning you see something else and you put that on the side, and then you open up to something that is almost higher than us comes down, because you let the children tell you what you can and what you cannot do with them. And also you always have to question, as we have already mentioned, the curriculum, which is not some kind of a standard that needs to be filled out. There are so many possibilities. Of course, we have the archetypes, especially connected to the development of the children, but every single class is so different. So for an example, I'm not touching on negative numbers in mathematics in class 6, but I have a certain group of children which are so interested and they already see them and understand them. So I give them a little bit of a taste so that I can keep the fire going for class 7. Or for an example, you talk to your colleagues and your colleague doesn't want to touch upon something in geography, but me also being an English teacher in that class, I have all the liberty to deal with those topics in English lessons. So, I mean, there are so many combinations. And this dialogue where we are trying to go to the aim, to the objective, to the goal, what we are trying to, give to the children. But this methodology that we are using is so rich and it is so opened so that we can not only go into this, okay, what have you learned? But we have such methodology that we can directly say to the children, send them a message, okay, now show me who you are. How do you perceive the world? How do you think by using what we have learned? And that is the beauty of it. So, and you have all of our emails, right? So whenever you have the question, I'm sure that anyone would like to have a conversation with you and pat you on the back.
Thank you, Nicolina.
You're welcome.
There's a nice comment in the chat by Wesco about what is the situation if you have to step in and have knowledge about it, mainly on the evening before, or maybe on the same day. I have to admit, when I started to be a teacher, that was really my fear, my worst experience. I was very much prepared for my own lessons. But when it comes to step in for a teacher, and maybe I have been a high school teacher, go into the first or second grade class as a step-in teacher, that was so horrible in the beginning. So I had a whole bunch of work in my background just to prepare for those lessons, because to do German literature, that was, after a while I could manage, but to this, it's an interesting situation. You step out of your comfort zone in a situation like that. And this is very much about being a Waldorf teacher, being constantly out of your comfort zone. And this challenge is really quite interesting.
Yes, just a contribution to that, Jost, if it's okay.
Yes.
To also thank Selma and Will. And I think when we have to step in, like you said, Jost, or we are insecure or what to bring to the class, we always have to go back to what is living in us and what is a living process. So always what is alive, what I like most. So when I have to step in, I always bring a story, a very interesting story that I like, that I feel it's interesting, that combines with this class or with this age, and something that I really see that is alive in me, and this brings life to them, and then it is touchy. They can gather with me in the story or in the music, a music that is I like a music very much, as you said, Will, or a subject I like most, and I bring this to them. It's a start, and then we see how it goes, how the dialogue starts, and how we establish dialogue more and more, and we improve it every time a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. We have reached the end of our time right now. It's a couple of minutes before 9 in Germany here. So I think we end this wonderful dialogue we had and really touching moments. Thank you so much for all your contributions, and especially Melanie, thank you so much for opening that with your wonderful talk. That was really, really deeply, touched me. And yeah, next week, Sven, it's your turn. I'm happy to hear you again. And this is something which is really, we named that series of lectures Waldorf Work in Progress. And so the question is, what should we address right now? And Sven's topic will be Waldorf and diversity. So we often touched it, but now we really go into that topic. And there has been a book in German right now, which has been appeared on that topic, sex education in Waldorf schools, and the question of diversity as a more broader general topic. It's really, I'm looking forward to talk about that. And I really hope there will be a sooner English translation. Should be easy to do for you, I think. Of that book, which has been published in Germany right now. So I'm looking forward to that, Sven, and I wish you all a good day, a good night, and a good week, and see you next week here. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.